Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and since we strive to be professional on Sportslook, we're going to have a professional on Sportslook. Actually, two of them. We're going to have Conrad Hamilton, the last guy from Eastern to play in the NFL. I'm going to be interviewing him on Zoom. We're also going to have a feature that Joel McMullen did with Mike Sinclair and Rocco Miller. So let's cue up my interview with Conrad Hamilton right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and it is an honor to bring to Sportslook, through the miracle of Zoom technology, Conrad Hamilton, the last guy to play football for Eastern New Mexico University, to play professional football in the NFL. And Conrad, welcome to Sportslook.
Welcome. Nice to be here. Looking forward to speaking with you guys.
Well, Conrad, you were a graduate of Alamogordo High School. You came to play football for Eastern. What was the process that got you from Alamogordo to play for the Greyhounds?
Out of high school, I initially, went to New Mexico Military Institute, actually out of high school. Kind of an underdeveloped athlete out of high school. I was 17 years old when I graduated. I played my senior year at 16 years old. During that time, my academics were probably really average at best, so to speak. And, for me, just going to New Mexico Military Institute and saying, okay, hey, what's my next stop? I bumped into a guy by the name of Howard Stern that was recruiting New Mexico Military Institute in the junior colleges and things of that nature. And I felt like, all right, am I going to stay here at New Mexico Military Institute for a whole nother year and try to be a Division I player and get out of there from that route? Because I was a qualifier out of high school, or should I just find a home for me, a place that I could go play football and get an education at? So at the end of the day, my parents were like, you're struggling over there at at New Mexico Military Institute, because I didn't really like the military background, even though my father was I lived at Holloman Air Force Base, and my dad was in the Air Force for 30 plus years, but that wasn't the route that I wanted to take. So I decided to take the scholarship at Eastern New Mexico.
And how much did you know about Portales, New Mexico before you signed with Eastern?
I knew a little bit about it because they were recruiting me a little bit out of high school. And then plus my brothers, I had an older brother that played football at New Mexico Highland during that time. And so, I had watched a couple games in Portales. I thought the stadium was nice out there at Blackwater Draw. He actually played. I actually watched Mike Sinclair play back in the day during that time and whatnot. And I remember, man, their defense was good. Those guys in gray and silver or whatever, green and silver were flying around a little bit. I didn't realize till later on or whatever that guy ended up playing in the National Football League. But yeah, I remember that. That's kind of my first kind of memory of Eastern New Mexico, Blackwater Draw in the stadium and all that.
Conrad, let's go back and talk a little bit about your evolution as a football player. When you were at Alamogordo, were you a two-way player?
I was. I played running back in high school, and I played also safety, defensive back, anywhere in the secondary I could play. But really, everybody in high school, skill player wise, especially back during when I played in the early 90s or whatnot in high school, all your best athletes were going to play both ways. And so everybody that wants to get their name in the paper, or whatever, wants to run the ball or catch the ball offensively. And so, I knew I was going to be a defensive player, later on down the road if I did get the opportunity, the Lord blessed me to play at the collegiate level, just because I knew that was my mentality. I just had more of an aggressive physical mentality, so to speak. But I played both running back, safety, return punts and kicks and all that. I was an all-state baseball player during the time as well. So
Definitely a multi-sport and a multifaceted athlete.
Yes, sir.
Well, Conrad, let's talk specifically about your time at Eastern New Mexico University. What are your fondest memories of playing for the Greyhounds?
You know, I mean, first off, Eastern just really, the university and the experience there changed my life. And I know, I know it has a lot to do with me as a growing young man and stuff, but just when I got to the school in Portales, so it was just kind of a change for me. Academically, I started to focus and do better. I was a 3.0 student during those times. But the most fond memory there, whatever, was just like you said, the small community that it was, a college town, beautiful campus. And then, the relationships that I forged with the guys that I played with, I'm still really close with guys that played on the team. Like I said before, Charlie Eagle, I came out to Arizona because of him, really. And then, a couple of my best friends, Jared Cheatham, Doug Hall, all these guys played, for the Greyhounds during that particular time. And a guy by the name of Steve Williams as well, who I coached with in high school for several years. We talk almost 2 or 3 times a week. So just really the relationships that I forged while I was there is really, college experience, no matter where you're at. 3,500 students, 60,000 students. I think when you play in an environment like athletics, on a football program, working every day with each other, I just think you're gonna, make those bonds and connections or whatnot. So that was really my biggest, enjoyable experience there.
I have a suspicion I know the answer to this question, but I want to hear it from your mouth first. Of all the games that you ever played for Eastern New Mexico, what was the most satisfying game for you personally?
You know, um, I remember vividly a game that I played. I do believe I think it was at home against Western New Mexico, and I remember that game. It's kind of making me get goosebumps a little bit because I knew that's the game that after that game, people thought I was a pretty good player and had some good talent or whatnot. But I remember after that game, whatever, and watching the game film and stuff, whatever, and then talking with Coach Elliott afterwards, and him telling me, "Hey, man, I think you might be one of the best players I've ever coached in college." And I'm just looking at him like, "Are you serious right now?" But that was really my coming out party. I think I had like a couple interceptions, big hits, flying around, doing stuff. In Western New Mexico, they had some talent on that team. Alfred Montez was the quarterback on that team. I think a guy by the name of Roberto Felix. I know they had a Alfred Montez was actually at the combine, the NFL combine with me that particular year. His son actually played for Colorado. Long story, but so that game really kind of stuck out at me. And then there's a couple other games where I played against maybe Kingsville. We didn't necessarily win, but just playing against elite talent like Kingsville had when I was there, and really playing like being one of the best players on the field with all that elite talent, whatever, just kind of show me, that hey, maybe I may have a shot to play at the next level. Who knows?
Yeah, I would have guessed the Western New Mexico game. Probably a second for me would have been a memorable game you had at Blackwater Draw against Angelo State, where you
Yes, sir.
also really excelled. But Conrad, let's talk a little bit about that year when you did make the transition from being a Greyhound to being in the NFL. When did you start to sense that there was a chance you might be drafted?
It's funny. I talked to somebody about that, maybe a year ago. It's funny. My brother, was a sports agent. He represented me when I played in the National Football League. My son kind of works for him right now, whatever. He represents probably 13 or 14 guys that play in the NFL. And I still talk about that process, kind of daily to maybe some of his players that are going through maybe some of the same type of things. But, you know, um, when scouts would come to our little practice out there, on that field, and all my teammates would be so excited. Oh, there's a scout from Minnesota, there's a scout from this guy or this guy, and they're all basically there at that time to see me, but all of my teammates were there, hey, trying to, put their name in the hat or whatever and have a good practice. And I don't know, I just remember just being so calm and so mellow, and not really focusing on the people that were there, but just doing my job, having fun or whatever, and being who I was. And then when I look back at those things or whatever, and talking with scouts, they were just amazed on my approach. Hey, guy from Eastern New Mexico just going about his business, like just like normal. Um, but just getting the grades and then going, when my agent signed me and I got invited to the combine. And then when I got invited to the combine or whatever, I mean, I'm a little bitty Eastern New Mexico, and all these guys are going to trainers here and there in big cities, getting represented by all these bigger agents and stuff or whatnot. I trained on my own. My buddy Charlie and I, whatever, he went through all the drills with me. Anyway, long story short, I went to the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, and I probably graded out at probably like in the top 95% in most of the ability categories. Broad jump, vertical jump. I think I had the fastest pro agility drill. I had the fastest 60-yard shuttle. I probably had one of the top, broad jumps, vertical jumps, 10-yard split, all those things. So it just kind of showed me like, wow, not only am I, a solid football player, but, physically, measurably wise, whatever, running and testing, I'm right along with some of these guys or whatever that are going to be getting drafted high. So that kind of showed me a little bit too.
Here again, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'd like it to hear it from you first. What was your greatest thrill playing in the NFL?
Several. I mean, just making the roster, just being there initially, when I went to the mini camps and training camp, and I was just like, man, this is just like playing in college, I can do this, making plays, doing things like that. But I think my biggest thrill, man, I don't know really which one it is, but I think the biggest thrill I had, we played the Denver Broncos in 1998, and they were undefeated. John Elway was a quarterback, Terrell Davis, all those guys. They were 13-0. We were, I think, at that time like 5-8 maybe. That was my first year starting in the National Football League, and we beat them. We beat them at home. We ruined their undefeated season. I mean, it was just an exciting game. Again, like I said, that was really that was my first year actually starting in the NFL that year or whatever, and facing guys like John Elway and tackling Terrell Davis and guarding guys like Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey and the guys they have, Shannon Sharp on that team, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. But that was really a big victory. I actually played well in the game. I think I had 2 or 3 blast affections. I had 10 tackles. I got the defensive player of the week, from our staff after the game ball and stuff. So that's something that really sticks in my head, from that standpoint. Playing well against an elite opponent at home in front of, a lot of my buddies from Eastern New Mexico were actually at that game. Of course, my wife was there, my mother and father. So it was a special day for us and me, being able to play in front of family and then get a big win as well.
Conrad, in the about minute and a half we've got left, because you've got to go off and conduct a practice. You're a high school coach in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you had a word of advice to give to the younger viewers of this program, the people who would like to follow in your footsteps, if you had to give them one word of advice, what would you tell them?
If I had to keep it in one word is, man, good question. Let me think about this one. I just think, in my opinion, when I talk to our kids every day or whatever, and I use the word passion a lot, I think, I have passion for the game of football. I think I've known I was going to be surrounded in the athletic realm since I was a little kid. I used to play with my mother's hair rollers, black hair rollers, all right, white hair rollers over here, and I was acting like I was playing football all day long. I just had a passion for it. On my free time, I went outside and either shot basketballs by myself, pretending I was going to win the game-winning shot in the NBA Finals. When I was coming out and working hard, I would, run or work out in the snow, doing stuff like that. If I went on a long trip, I'd come back at 3 or 4 in the morning. I remember knocking on coaches' door sometimes. Hey, can I get a key to the weight room? Whatever your dreams are, whatever you want to accomplish in life, I don't think you can fully go all out at if you don't have a passion for what you're doing. Of course, everybody wants to work hard, but for me, it was a love. And then, I know that I had a dream and I just chased it. Don't be afraid to fail because everybody's going to fail in those situations. I said, knock yourself off, get up. But, I chased that dream. And, and when you chase dreams, a lot of people talk about chasing dreams, but they don't follow through on it because a lot of the times I don't think that their heart or their passion about what they're doing. And I was, And so I would just say anything that you want and that you love, you have a passion for, follow through with it. It's a dream, but sometimes, man, that's what life is about, trying to chase those dreams and have some fulfillment. And, lucky for me, I was blessed. And, I get a chance to do what I love to do. I played football for a living. I got paid to do what I do. And then now when I'm done, I have an education to abide by that as far as like me being a football player and know what's very important for me. And now I give that same message back to kids as an educator and a high school football coach.
Conrad, it's been an honor. Congratulations on what you've made of life and what you're continuing to make of life through influencing young people.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I want you guys to know this, whatever. I'm looking forward to trying to get back to Eastern New Mexico. I know that the facilities are looking great down there right now. I know that the stadium is back on campus. For you guys to know, you guys are working hard. I had I'm looking at these cards here. I had Coach Max Silver in here at my school the other day recruiting our players along with Garrett Castile. Those guys were showing me, talking to me, they're up on their history. Coach, it's great to, meet at Eastern New Mexico, alumni and a guy that had great success like you, showing me, video and pictures of my jersey being retired and up on the wall. You guys don't know how special that made me feel. I mean, really, sometimes I know I'm getting choked up about it, but the Greyhounds in Eastern New Mexico, it's where I'm at in my life right now because of my experience there and the accomplishment that I had there. And I just wish the Greyhounds and the Greyhound family nothing but success. And hopefully I can get a chance, with my busy family, 5 kids, everybody's all over the place, but hopefully I can get back down there and show the respect for the university that gave me my opportunity. I wish you guys well.
Thank you, Conrad.
You bet.
Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to talk to a couple of other football players, Draco Miller and Mike Sinclair, right now.
We were going to start off talking a little football recruiting, but we had a special guest come in, got another guest with me too, but let's get right to it. Assistant Coach Draco Miller, one of my good friends down there in Greyhound football. Draco, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you very much.
Glad to have you on the set. And Draco, we got a big man and a special guest on the set tonight. Introducing.
We do. Tonight it's my honor to introduce to you guys again Michael Sinclair, Pro Bowler, All-American, great defensive end for the Greyhounds, Mr. Michael Sinclair.
Michael, welcome to the show.
Well,
good to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
So what's bringing you to Portales, Mike?
Well, they're going to retire my jersey. Got a chance to go by Blackwater Draw. A lot of memories in that stadium. Rode around campus, saw that, I was here 20 years ago, so there's definitely some new things.
Change.
Yeah. There's a lot of change going on in Portales. So, it's my pleasure to be here.
Well, glad to have you. And for those people that don't know, tell us a little bit about your high school history, how you ended up being a Greyhound, when you were here, and so forth.
Wow, I hope we have a lot of tape for that.
We can roll as long as you got, Mike.
I was a Prop 48 for LSU coming out of high school. Never heard of Eastern before. One of the recruits came down and told me, well, being a Prop 48, you got to sit out. So I knew that, but he was like, you can come here and you can start. So I was like, okay, well, sounds like a good deal to me. I just want to play some football. So come here. Didn't like it my first year. Was ready to go, but after just spending, one full year here, I began to like Portales, like the football team, like we had to offer. Our coaching staff enjoyed those guys. So that was it. 4 years later, some good things began to
Well, let me ask you this, Mike. A lot of freshmen, Draco deals with it, Roboto, all the coaches, myself, we all deal with this, and that is freshmen who come in, whether they're from the big city or from a small town,
Right.
for some reason always have the antsiness, the desire maybe to leave. What was it for you, but what was it that turned you around and said, no, I need to stay here and get this done?
Well, I think, coming out of high school, first of all, you're spoon-fed. Your parents are getting you up in the morning, cooking you breakfast. So everything is laid out for you. Here you come to school, and it's not that way. You don't have anybody basically waking you up, cooking you meals, giving you a pat on the back. It's basically you got to make your way just a little bit.
Become a man.
Yeah, and that's a struggle sometimes to say, man, I'm in a new place. Here's a lot of changes going on. Can I adapt to the changes? So you begin to say, well, I'll go back to what I know, which is home. And my dad wouldn't let me come back home. It's like, you made a commitment.
That's right.
You made a commitment. You need to stay there, because it's not how you start, but it's how you finish. Exactly. So I appreciate it. Man, I appreciate him telling me that, because, wow, I mean, I really wouldn't be able to have done some of the good things I did if I just would have gave up. So I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. Great history here. Draco, tell us a little bit about Michael's impact on the program, what he means to the program.
Well, he means a lot to the program. He's one of the finest defensive ends that's come through our program. It gives our guys an opportunity to see that they can achieve goals that Michael has achieved. Anytime that you have a Pro Bowler, anytime that you have an NFL, anytime that you have All-Americans that come through your program, your kids are going to want to strive to be that All-American. Michael had the opportunity to talk to our kids today, and they were just sitting on the edge of their chairs wanting to listen and wanting to know the things that he's done to come through this program. I can tell you this, Coach Roboto made a statement today while Michael was in the meeting room. Our players are gracing the same field that he graced. And to have that honor to go to Blackwater Draw and to play on the same field as a Pro Bowler, as the all-time leadingest guy in sacks, as a NFL guy, that's something to be commended about. So you take those little things and you run with them. And when you've got things like that, it's awesome. So our guys are ready to go to work even more so now, because the man has talked to our team and said, look, I've been in your shoes. I've done the 6 o'clock run, and I've done the weightlifting, and I've done the study hall when I didn't want to do it. So they don't think that it's just something that the coaches are saying and we're trying to sell to them. Here's a guy that lived it, and that makes all the difference in the world.
So, Mike, you go to the NFL. Tell us a little bit about the NFL experience, where you were at, some of your accomplishments there. Yeah, I know we don't have enough tape, but condense.
I'll try my best.
All right.
Getting to Seattle, I was a 6th-round draft choice. I had a lot of interest. My year came out, I was rated as the 15th best linebacker in the country. I thought that was, that was pretty good coming out from a Division II program.
Absolutely.
Seattle called me in the 3rd round, said, we're going to take you in the 3rd round. Well, I didn't get to go to the 6th, but that's when it was 13 rounds of drafting. So, I was just, my dad always taught me, expect nothing but appreciate everything. So, I was just like, hey, that doesn't mean I've made the team because I've been drafted. Now you still have to go make the team. So I basically had my feet on level ground, because to be drafted out of Division II program, sometimes it's a heady thing, here you are in a major stadium, you're in a big city like Seattle, but, I became acclimated to our system, got bigger, got stronger, all the same work ethic I had here at Eastern. It just, I just put it in my time in Seattle, studying film, working hard, listening to your veteran players. And that is why I became a pretty good player.
And then obviously became a Pro Bowler.
Yep, led the league in sacks. I mean, I tell, my players, I'm a coach at WT. So I tell my players that, go ahead.
Did he say WT
He did
on this
say
show?
WT,
Okay, well,
but that's okay.
All right.
It's okay. I mean, hey,
His roots are at Eastern.
I still got green blood.
Still bleeding green?
That's
All
right.
All right.
But, leave your name on whatever you do. Make sure you do it to your fullest and your best. Leave your name. I don't give you, if you're in the business world, you're playing football, some of you guys, going to be fathers. Whatever you do, leave your name on the best that you can do. Leave your name on that program. So, I'm fortunate to be here, guys. I don't take all the credit. A lot of coaches.
I was going to ask you, you want to mention some of the coaches?
Coach Carthel for recruiting me, and sticking there with me when I wanted to go home, and just sitting down talking to me. That I end up, the relationships that I built here at Eastern, I still have those same ties because the guy who recruited me, now I work for him. So I told the guys.
And a great year, by the way. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. But college is always a building experience. I appreciate it. You're going to play pro ball, but you think all that football is just That's how much football is, because outside of those bookmarkers, there's a life to live.
A lot of life there.
A lot of life.
That's
So,
right.
you know, I appreciate, you know, my jersey being retired. You know, I'm gonna have some of my players from WT here tonight, some of the coaches here. But, you know, life goes on. It was great talking to, you know, giving me a chance to talk to some of the Greyhounds today. Just telling those guys just about life and just about, you know, my NFL experience. You know, playing 12 years, not a lot of guys play 12 years. No. You know, life expectancy of an NFL player is only 2.5 years. So to play 12 years, you know, to be consistent, you know, that takes a lot of hard work. So, you know, like I say, the pleasure is mine just to be here. I'm back in Portales. You guys have a super Walmart now, I see. Didn't have that when I was
doing
here
big
20
things
years
in
ago.
Portales.
You know, but you know, like I say, the pleasure is all mine.
Well, glad to have you back. We got to wrap it up, but thanks for coming on the show, Draco. Thanks for bringing him here, and congratulations on the retirement of your jersey.
Well,
I know it
you.
means a lot to the program, to all the Eastern family. So welcome back.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
During my interview with Conrad Hamilton, we talked about the fact that he was drafted by the Giants. We didn't talk about when he was drafted. He was actually drafted in the 7th round. And for those of you that are fans of pro football, you know that that's the last round of the pro football draft today. It wasn't always. Back in the day when I was younger, there actually used to be 12 rounds of the NFL draft. And that meant that the last person selected in the 12th round was given a title. He was called Mr. Irrelevant, because the chances of a guy getting drafted in the last round of the 12th round probably making a team was minimal. But there was a guy by the name of Tyrone McGriff Sr. in 1980 that was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was Mr. Irrelevant, but he made the Steelers, and not only did he make the Steelers, he made the all-rookie team. So like Conrad Hamilton said, if you're young and you've got a dream, pursue your passion and great things might happen. Well, that is going to wrap up in overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I'd like to thank Conrad Hamilton for being my guest. I'd like to thank my crew for finding that interview segment with Joel McMullen interviewing Draco Miller and Mike St. Clair. I had a great floor crew directed by Mr. Scott. So for those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.